Hey everyone. Just a second, we'll get started. SEO this week. Welcome everyone to episode 207 of SEO this week. Thank you all for joining me. If you're joining me live, if you're listening on the podcast, we appreciate you too. As always, we'll go through the news and stuff, just kind of give a little bit of insights and things. And then I want to talk about website accessibility. It's been kind of I won't say it's a hot topic, but it has been a topic. And it's a topic that is approached to you from a position of fear. If you do this, don't do this, you're going to get sued. And while there are instances of that actually happening, it's not as horrid as everyone makes it out to be. And as a matter of fact, aside from the good karma that you get for optimizing your website and paying attention to most of the ADA stuff, there's some SEO benefits. We're going to talk about all that stuff, see some perspectives, give you a couple tools you can look at to help look at your ADA compliance and see if there's some things in there that you can actually leverage for not only to increase the compliance, but to leverage for SEO on an SEO basis. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and just get started. Oh, excuse me. As we go through, just remember, if you have any questions and you're watching live, you can drop them in the YouTube chat, and I will pick them up there. Pretty soon, the phone thing will be working. I just haven't had any time to test it, to be quite honest. So I'll get there eventually. That's the theory anyway. All right, so here we go. So first is I wanted to talk about disavow. I did a disavow file in a video, and we talked about it on the show on occasion, and just the recommendations, etc. And this article goes through Marie Haynes' evolution through her recommendations on the disavow file. And it kind of mirrors my own, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to see like some third-party validation of what's going on. If you don't know who Marie Haynes is, it's Marie Haynes Consulting. She talks a lot about link building and link cleanup. She's actually had some resources, specifically like this master list disavow file that she by default put on everyone's sites, and recommend that you do the same, just because those are the ones that were through her experience she thought that those were bad. And she has a monthly newsletter, talks about SEO news and stuff. I'm not entirely sure if that came out before or after SEO this week, but it's been around for a while. It is a paid newsletter. It's decent. I stopped paying for it, however. I just wasn't. There's just a lot of free resources out there now. Mine, Atelius, and a whole bunch of other people have kind of jumped on the SEO news bandwagon. And there's so many free resources. Paying for it didn't really make all that much sense. That said, she's going through her evolution, and it's kind of the same as mine. Before, when the disavow tool, it wasn't really an accepted thing, like even myself, right? So Penguin came out, and then they came out with the disavow tool, and it wasn't really brought in with open arms. So people, including myself, were saying, "Oh, that's just a way for Google to find all the bad domains and how these linking schemes that you're going to do, and all, et cetera, et cetera." And they're going to take that information, and then as your domains, if you own them, get put into this pile created by the disavow tool, your sites are never going to rank, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if there is any truth to all of those things. But at the end of the day, what we found, I figured with testing, is that the disavow tool is essentially like a super no follow setting. So you set rel no follow on your external links and stuff, and essentially what you're doing with the disavow tool is pretty much the same thing. You're saying, hey, look, robot thing, any links I get from this domain or any links I get from this page, I don't want you to follow them. Please don't count them against me. And it's more of a please, sir, type of thing than it is a do not. And so that is fell in line with what no follow is. No follow sometimes passed use, sometimes it didn't, but for the most part, it always counted towards rankings in one way or another. It's either a consideration by its placement or a direct link use. And more often than not, the consideration by its placement won the day. So that's why a lot of people erroneously told you don't have to worry about no follow links. In which case you really have to do it. So Marie Haynes back then, 2013, 2016, same time frame as me, roughly. We were telling everyone you should do the disavow file, make sure it's clean and stuff. And then we kind of transitioned to if you only have a manual penalty, then do the disavow file. I was the same type person along those same lines. And it wasn't until recently I flipped back, and Maria has as well, and she's got a little bit of a test here to kind of show you why you should. Keep in mind that I've done the video too. There's 2 videos on disavow file in the SEO This Week channel or the Digitaleer channel. You can check them out. I'm waiting to see this increase in the rankings on those pages. But if you look at the time frame, there's 2018 and 2019. You figure her file is here, so there's probably like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 months in between disavow filing and the actual stuff going up. So it begs to ask the question. Like in this case, it was a client for her, and the only thing that they did on this website is the link cleanup in the disavow file. That's the only thing they did on it. There's nothing to say that the client didn't do some things on it too, build some new links, do some new on page, etc., or just kind of get lucky and find some, or get better at identifying topics, and that could have caused this increase. So that's not really clear in there, but I would argue that it would be harder to accomplish this if you still had all those bad links pointing to you. Plus, the other thing is I pointed out in those 2 videos is the page that I was building a disavow file for primarily didn't have a whole lot of backlinks on my own, if any at all. I think I had a few, but I didn't have a whole lot. And what happened was it became susceptible to anchor text links from crappy domains, crappy content to the page. And the anchor texts were all pretty much relevant. If you can go through there and see what I did. A lot of those anchor texts are relevant. However, it was the crappy domain names, and it made it look completely unnatural. And that unnatural anchor text coming from those crappy domains resulted in the page dropping from first page of Google all the way down to number 54, I think was the worst it got, maybe in the 60s. I'm not even sure. So I had to do a disavow file, and the disavow file got it up to the 20s, so the high 20s. I kind of expect that. I don't expect these rocket ships right here. One, the SEO industry doesn't have that much traffic unless you're giving out information and writing articles about and teaching people free things. For the most part, people in our space, it's more of a popularity contest than it is a contest of intelligence. And if you're in the white hat side of the space, it's based off of you look at those people who are known talking heads in the white hat space, and they're all corporate SEOs. So they're not the only SEO working on the website. They are talking and establishing their personal brand based off of their job descriptions, etc., which isn't wrong. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that they're not necessarily the end all be all of SEOs. They work as a team, and then teams come up with ideas not individuals in a corporate setting. And then you have the other side of our market where it's the internet marketing space, which is those lead gen, affiliate types, etc. And that's definitely based off of popularity contest. And so in my market, I don't expect my disavow to show that much improvement of my rankings or my traffic, specifically for traffic. And you got to keep that in mind in your markets too. Plumbers, if you're a plumber, you're just not going to get a whole lot of web traffic. It doesn't matter what kind of content marketing plan you have. It doesn't matter X, Y, and Z. It depends on how many people are in your community and how many people happen to have plumbing problems that day. So if you only get 10 visitors a day and 3 of them call you and that relieves in service, that's a win. So, kind of think about that and think about the perspectives and what you're going to expect to see out of the disavow tool. There are some things inside of Google or some representatives inside of Google that are down for killing it. And frankly, it's because of this idea that Google filters your links for you. And I'll tell you right now that Google is not filtering your links for you. You can believe that hype if you want to, but they're not doing it. The disavow for the WordPress speed optimization page, that alone should tell you that Google's not filtering those. All those domains are from India, and all of them are partial match or exact match anchor text. They're all crap content. If Google was not allowing those or was not following those, all of those links should have not hurt my website. The fact is that Google actually does follow those. They're not filtering out as much as John Mueller claims that they are, and you should not rely on Google to clean up your link profile for you, because they're not going to do it. They have absolutely zero vested interest in ignoring links to your website when they can find other people who have managed to collect other links of higher quality. So they want to know where the low quality links are so they don't get tricked. And they'll penalize you for those low quality links. Whether you did them or not, they will penalize you for those low quality links in the algorithm. They won't call it a Google penalty. They say the Google algorithm demoted. They didn't penalize you, we demoted you. The algorithm demoted you. Technically, we had no influence of that. So keep that in mind when you hear people talking about how the Google filters backlinks for you, because they're not doing it at all. And then she talks a little bit about the different messages and stuff that you might see from a manual penalty. And then just some ways you can go through and filter and clean out your own link profiles. I would be very careful here in the case of this, especially when cleaning stuff out. You have to look at the context of the link. Don't just assume that because it's on a forum, for example, that you should disavow it. It's not necessarily the case. There's plenty of forum links that are actually doing really well for people. And the same goes with plague sites. There's plague sites that are out there that send a lot of traffic and stuff. What you really want to look for is things that get excessively repeated in your profile. And it seems that domain was really depending on them. So, for example, if you are a tool user and you have SEO autopilot and that's the only thing you use for link building, that stuff's going to stand out during a manual review. You have to sprinkle that in with some other things, right? Same if you have a PBN network, for example, and you're only using the PBN network, that's going to stick out. Eventually, it's going to not work anymore, too, because of loss leader stuff, right? And you have to keep adding to it and keep building your PBN, etc. But if you're paying attention and you do a really good job with the disavow and the link cleanup, you can save yourself a lot of drama in the short term and the long term. Yay! All right, so that's it on that. Now, this is the story it kind of draw me into the website accessibility idea for today's show. And the fact of the matter is that, they people ask questions of the Google reps, and particularly John Mueller, in a way that just kind of, it causes answers that really actually lead to misinformation, in my opinion. In this case, ADA compliance is not a Google search ranking factor. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? That answer is probably true. The compliance of itself, being compliant with ADA, is not a search factor. But there are things inside of the ADA compliance, the steps that you have to go, the processes to get compliant, that are search factors, such as a title tag or name in your title tag, or images, and you have title set in images, or you have ARIA set in images, ARIA and title set in your backlinks, for example, or anchor text set in your backlinks, or alt text in your images. And those are all things that SEOs on and off have said work and don't work. If you follow me long enough, you know that I test pretty much everything. For example, someone was talking about how alt texts shouldn't have your keywords in them; they should be descriptive. Well, my response is, why can't they be descriptive and have your keyword in there at the same time? Especially if you're using relevant images. So if you're using an irrelevant image and then you have a descriptive thing and it doesn't have a keyword in it, is it going to help you rank for your keyword? No. Is it going to help in usability? No. Is it going to help your conversions? No. So why in the jeebs hell are you even using that image in the first place? So those things got to be thought about when you're doing the ADA stuff. So I would argue that John is correct in the situation that ADA compliance in and of itself is not a ranking factor. They're not going to run an ADA score on your website and then give you a score towards your overall ranking score based off of what you got in your ADA thing. They're just not going to do it. There's no value into it for them. It wouldn't be a moneymaker. They wouldn't gain any money off of doing that. And the only thing that they might get is a little bit of social justice warrior love for taking this on. But they would also probably get some hate from the lawyers who are indeed running around and suing website owners for not being an ADA compliant. And it's not the thing that you have to be afraid of. There are lawyers that are doing it, and primarily in states like California. And how this really works is they find someone who's suffering from a disability, and then they have their staff run around and find a whole bunch of websites that are not ADA compliant. They look at the cost benefits, so how much it's going to cost to run this, get this client, and get how much money am I going to get out of that client potentially. And then they send them the lawsuit. And for the most part, everyone is open to getting sued for that. It's just a matter of how bad your ADA compliance is in the perspective of the website, and then how deep your pockets are. They're not going to go after small mom and pops. There's just no money in it for them. It costs more money to actually do that lawsuit. But they'll go after a Beyonce. They'll go after a Fortune 500 company. They'll go after a Fortune 5,000 company. If you got 100 or more employees and you have an ADA website that is not ADA compliant, you could potentially be targeted for that. So from knowing that, how do we accomplish the ADA stuff? How do we become ADA compliant while at the same time, how do we leverage that for SEO? And there's a post here. The link's in the on the show page in the description there. You can find a link. It's about SEO and accessibility and some of the things that go along with it. And this is more of a like why you should, match the idea between SEO and how you can sell SEO and doing accessibility, in particular to clients who are, they're for the most part not interested in accessibility stuff. Uh, it's not that they don't care, it's just that probably they assume, right or wrong, that people with disabilities don't have the desire for the product and service. So they're like, why should I invest time in it? So this talk actually gets you through that a little bit. Let's see if I can zoom the screen, and there you go. So in particular, like the impact of it, the problems that come along with it is faster and cheaper content, too much money if you don't do it, and then some distraction stuff it relates to business processes. Not distraction to users, just distraction of you. Oh, you're not doing SEO and you're not ranking this page because you're worried about setting ARIA tags in the code. You're being distracted. That kind of application. So these are all really good arguments for doing accessibility. This would actually make a pretty good sales letter for an accessibility service. For example, the small impact, one in five services are actually accessible. It is kind of ongoing, but it is not a zero-sum game if you present it right. And then it is faster, cheaper, and easier, and you can create some stuff here at the end of it by accomplishing it. So getting all of this done and understanding this and getting your clients to understand this is really important to digging into that accessibility thing. As an SEO agency, you could probably upsell that service, but I would actually put that as part of it. And start doing some of your work on there. It might take it longer, so you do the on-page phase and you get into accessibility, technical SEO, and then by month 4, you're actually getting into link building and content marketing. I get it. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of money and effort for a client before you get even to month 4 before they actually start seeing significant gains. But if you're positioning that stuff right, you're not even right saying that you're going to get them results within the first 6 months, because you have to fix this A, B, C, and D, and then you have to wait a couple months for links and all that stuff to kick in. So you're looking at month 6 before you see results. And that's the kind of play that SEO is. It's long term, and if your clients understand that, and you can present this information to them in that way, you'll get a better thing out of it. But how do we test it? So there's a few testing tools out there. One I like is Axe DevTools. It's a Chrome extension. It works really, really good. There is another one. It's called DQ. I'm sorry. It's kind of like a resource for some accessibility stuff. In this case here, you can see there's different operating systems and how they use the ARIA label versus the ARIA and title in a backlink. And you see most of them have both. So your best bet is to have ARIA, have your keyword in the title and in the ARIA label and the anchor text, all three of those places. Google reads all that code. The readers read all that code. So Google's happy and you're happy, and you can increase the density of your pages in an ethical way if you're thinking along the lines of a white hat versus black hat SEO tactic. This is not that. This is, you're using all the labels and ensuring that everyone who needs to know what that link is can achieve that. The ARIA stuff it's the reader alone that does it. Title, if you hover over the link and you get the title of the link, it'll show up. And then obviously most of us know what the anchor text is. It's the blue words that lead to the link. All those work in conjunction together for SEO and for readers. But this Axe Devs tool is actually pretty cool. So we'll just kind of look at what it does. I'm going to use this page because it talks about SEO or about accessibility. So Here's another extension I actually like too. It's called Accessibility Insights for the Web. Accessibility Insights for the Web. You can find it in the Chrome Web Store. And you click on that, and it does its thing. It's going to have to do this twice, I believe, because I have some weird settings on here. And then here's the Axe one. Well, actually, you can see what's going on here is some of the errors, fair rules, color contrast, failed rules. And that's all being generated by this thing. And so you see the color contrast is here is bad. Those aren't really going to get you in a lot of trouble. And you're not going to get a benefit from SEO and fixing these. But I do like it from a usability standpoint, where if the tools think it's too close, right, if it's hard to read, maybe your users do too, and play around with the color codes to make it so that those go away. So now it is easier to read. It doesn't have to be completely obnoxious. It just got to be easier to read, right? And this one actually didn't test everything that I wanted it to. So we're going to look at it from another perspective. We're going to use Axe. So I'm going to reset the page, and we're going to go to Axe. Let's find developer. And the extension for Axe, it actually puts it in here in the developer tools. And we'll click that, and then we'll just run the whole page. If you have any, in this one, if you have any parameters set, UTM, for sure, I know that UTM didn't work. It's not going to work in here. It'll tell you that. You just clear out the parameters, and it'll work again for you. That may be a little bit harder if you're in an e-com situation that relies on parameters. But if you're doing this normally, you see it. Anyway, if you push the Axe and go and developer tools, there is a paid version. I haven't even messed with it. But really you see some of the similar messages. Here's that insufficient elements have sufficient color contrast, must have. And that just means that they're two together, right? And you can do, it's not really good. Like I can't click this and see what elements. That's kind of a pain, but you can actually see some recommendations of where the source is at, and then what you need to do to fix it. In this case, it's a CSS thing. Fix that CSS, and then put it together. ID attribute, and this is on a must be unique. In this case, you have to look at what the image is actually for. If it's an image for design, like this is an image for design, technically I don't have to have anything in there. I can leave it blank, and I can leave the anchor text blank, and I can leave the alt text blank, because it's purely for design. These would probably want to be bested, but they're not our thing. But in this case, this is not for design, and you want it to meet the standards. So you got to actually find some more instances of this. We can push highlight, find icon. Where are you? Oh, it's around the whole thing. That's weird. We go back. Do it again. Let's see. There's more tests going on. So there's something going on with the DOM, and this page is changing. Links must have discernible text. Let's look in here. Age equals comments. There's no title. There's no name of the link. And there's no alt tags, but it is going to the comments. So that needs to be cleaned up a little bit just to be in compliance. And you can actually, have an opportunity to drop some more keywords in there if you wanted to play with that. Iframes tested with the Axe Core. This one's a little bit tricky because there's not really a whole lot you can do with it. I would argue that you could add a little bit of the anchor text, air quotes, in there. You put you have the title in there, that works. Just put an alt in there if you wanted to. I don't think alt is going to work. It's not really proper schema, or I mean proper coding. But there's an opportunity that it could. But you can certainly put name in here, and that'll help you. There it is. It's got Wistia embed. I would fix the name and make that a little bit better so that it's a proper thing. And let's see. Read this post. The issue. Share that links are with the same accessible name serve a similar purpose. So the names are the same. So that's saying you need unique names. So you really can't keyword stuff, but you could do variations, etc. And the point of this exercise is not to show you that how to fix all this stuff. A lot of this stuff may be just completely out of your skill set, and your dev can actually run through this and do this. The point is, how do I take advantage of accomplishing this task, getting the client to buy off on the fact that I need to do this task by using the opportunity to say, hey, look, not only are we meeting this compliance, not only are we reducing your risk to get sued, we're not eliminating it because we're never going to be 100% perfect, but we're reducing your risk to get sued, and we're increasing the value, the SEO value of your web pages. And this is how we identify it, and we see that. And that's really how the accessibility works. Again, there's a lot of people out there that are scaring business owners. Like they'll hold whole webinars telling you to be afraid, to worry about the big bad evil lawyers that are coming out to get you, and that they're going to get everybody. And if you're not got now, you're going to get got soon. And in the meantime, pay me $2,000 and I'll do your accessibility stuff. There's a lot of people doing that. Do not fall for that. It's not a fear thing. It's not a let's be afraid thing. It is a business decision that you have to make that can, by ignoring it, potentially there is the risk that you could get sued. It's a low potential, but it's still a potential. So you have to balance your risk matrix and see if that is something that you have to worry about and see if you have to address it. Number one. Number two is in the time and money investment. You're going to pay someone to do this, or you're going to do it. But at the end of the day, it's going to cost you time and money. And if you're a business owner, you are the time and money. If you're doing it yourself. So you have to figure out how much is that, if I invest 2 hours to 10 hours, cleaning up my website, cleaning up the ARIA, making sure all the art tags are there, all that stuff is done properly. If I invest in that time to do that, how much money could it save me versus a potential lawsuit? In the rare instance that I might get accused of or be involved in a lawsuit for ARIA ADA violations. And then three, you need to look at the additional benefits of doing it outside of being ADA compliant. One, the website will probably convert better especially if you have the contrast issues, and those are really heavy on your website. Those contrast issues, you fixing those could actually fix your conversion rates. It's as easy as changing the color of something has proven left and right to be able to fix conversion rates on a website. Adding titles, adding names, putting keywords, keyword variations, descriptive titles with keywords, descriptive names with keywords, descriptive alt tags, all that stuff adds together, and it will increase the overall ranking of the website. Those are three sound benefits and three sound reasons why you should take ADA compliance seriously. Remember, you're doing ADA compliance as a business decision. You're not doing it out of fear. You're working it from a business perspective. All right. Not a lot of questions today. That's really good. We're going to get the show almost wrapped up. I only have one from Elton Musa. Elton, thank you for watching. How do you keep track of your backlinks? Not just your tier 1, but your other tier 2s. Do you create sheets? How do you organize them? First, I only track my tier 1s. Those are the ones pointing directly at my website. Tier 2s, I don't pay attention to at all. As long as my tier 1s are still alive, and for the most part, all my tier 1s are decent, high quality. As long as they're still alive, I'm happy. There's no sense in getting into the weeds and keeping track of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 links, especially on some of my projects where I can build 5,000 of those a day. It's just not. That's just not something that I'm gonna do. I want to keep track of my primary money site link profile, and you have to do that with a combination of tools, or well, at the end of the day, it's going to be a combination of tools, because Link Research Tools has 22 sources, and you have Ahrefs, Majestic, SEMrush, and Moz, plus Google Search Console, that are all collecting backlink data on your website and your pages, and they all have different data because they're all hitting different crawlers. If you're serious and you have the budget for it, I would go with Link Research Tools and maintain your link profile with Link Research Tools and take advantage of the other stuff that's in there, because it is an expensive tool. I stopped using it on a monthly because it's so expensive and I wasn't leveraging all the other tools. So I stopped paying for it. But right now I use Majestic and Ahrefs to monitor my profile. If I see anything in either one of those things that's set off, I turn on the subscriptions and do a quick cleanup. And that seems to work out for me. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Good morning, Everett, from Australia. No, New Zealand, I think. I don't know. I got you guys all mixed up. Let's see. Australia. I think it's Australia. Anyway, Jeff Meekin, thanks for watching. Hello, Clint. One question. How important is relevance of your inbound links? Do you even measure that? Any thoughts on link laundering? Those are two big questions. So I think I'm going to address the... link laundering, really, it's cleaning up links, sending bad links to, or questionable links to a good property, and you're letting a good property fill it out. And that actually works pretty good. There's also a double 301 redirect. I haven't tested that in a while, but essentially it's the same thing. You buy a domain, 301 it to your money site. You buy another domain, 301 that to the original domain that you bought, and then that's a double 301. And then you can send all kinds of crap to the second domain, and the 301s clean it out. So by the time it gets to your money site, there's only good link juice coming through. So that used to work. I haven't tested it in quite some time. So I wouldn't recommend doing that to a money site. You could definitely test it out and see how it works again, and maybe even duplicate that. But I would only put that, probably, if I was doing it, I would only do it to my supporting pages in my silo, because then I can, if something happens, something changed, I would just kill it and save myself a whole lot of drama. So that's the link laundering thing. The methods out there, all of them still work to one extent or another. You just have to really test it to see how much. And then the relevance thing. In the adult space, I can tell you that relevance doesn't mean anything. We sent links to, for obvious reasons, there's just not a whole lot of people that want to link to adult websites. And so you get into a lot of networks. That's kind of where the PBN stuff came out, right? And then reciprocal linking came out of the adult stuff, because nobody wants to link to gambling, pharma, and adult. No one wants to do it. They're all high and mighty, regardless that, porn is a recession-proof business. No one wants to link to that stuff. So I can tell you, in that case, relevancy doesn't matter at all. And in the other case of like a local business website or whatever, it's really about the anchor text more so than it is the relevancy of the content there. But by default, when I'm creating my tier 1 stuff, I kind of make it relevant. It's not exactly relevant, but it's kind of relevant, just so that the anchor text makes a little bit of sense. But if I'm paying for the backlink, like a guest post or a niche edit or something like that, if it's got relevant traffic on relevant content with the relevant anchor text, this kind of like a perfect storm thing, right? But those are more unicorns that you hunt versus something that people can get on the average, especially good guest posts, good niche edits, or good either of those with a whole lot of traffic. Those are unicorns that you hunt, you build relationships with, and you do essentially what is white hat link building, is make friends with a whole bunch of people. You pick on a new client, you go back to your friends list and you say, hey, can you all link to me? And they all say sure, and then you give them a link from one other source or another. So, so relevance. I mean, if you're in a market that has a lot of tattletales, they'll do a lot of narc SEO. Relevance is probably your friend, saves you. But if you're in a space where there's few SEOs playing around, not a whole lot. There's a few, but there's competition there. Competition breeds money. Or level of competition indicates level of money involved in that market. Then sprinkle some relevance in there so you can hide the rest of your stuff that really works. Elton, again, any tips on indexing pages blocked by robots.txt? Google says pages might get indexed even though they're blocked by. Do you know how to force index these? Yeah, take the block out of robots.txt. There is if Google says might, but for the most part they actually follow it pretty well. There are some cases where a page will be indexed, and then the user will block the bots or change the to no index, and it'll remain in the index, and no matter what you do, it won't come out. There are a lot there, but for the most part, if it's blocked by robots, and Google is honored to block by robots, for the most part, they won't put it in there. There are some instances where it doesn't happen, but I have not seen any proof or anyone show me any proof of where a URL was not in the index first, and then they turn on and block the bot. God knows why you'd want to block Googlebot, but okay. But they turn around and block the Googlebot, and then the site came out. I've never seen an instance of that. Not saying it doesn't happen, but I've never seen an instance of it. And I can't imagine why in God's name you'd want to do that in the first place. So, but to force them, no, you're not going to force that. Google, for the most part, honors the robots.txt for calling to websites. So, you're not going to force it. Does link juice throw even though page is blocked by robots? Well, first, I don't know. Again, it's why would you block Googlebot? That doesn't make any damn sense. If you have it not blocked and you put no index on there from the data publishing, Google will still crawl it. Google will still give credit to the backlinks that are on that no index page without indexing the page itself. Crawling versus indexing of backlinks has been a hot topic debate. I've always said crawling is more important than indexing. There's a whole lot of people jumping on that bandwagon now. But there's still just as many who say, no, it's got to be indexed. It doesn't count. The link's not there. It doesn't count. It's not in the index. It doesn't count. Google doesn't think it's quality enough. Okay. Keep believing that. Everything is relevant in the adult niche. That's kind of true. Page blocked by robots is not on my site. Well, one, I don't know why you have a link on there anyway. Two, why would Google bot be blocked on the website? If the Google bot is blocked on it, they gave you a link on a developer's website that they don't never want to index, and it's absolutely zero value. Let's see. Want to know if I can send tier 2 links to it and if best use. Yeah, if if Google's blocked on it by robots.txt, they shouldn't see any of the links on the site at all. They wouldn't crawl it. It doesn't make any sense for them to crawl it if it's blocked by robots.txt. If the page is set to no index with the robots, meta robots per page, and that page says robots no or robots no index, then the bot still crawls it. So there is a clear distinction there. Hi, Clay. I'm confused about Google's press practices, RE product category, page structure data. Getting a warning when testing no as no offer or review. Should I bother with structured data with them? Product category, no offer. You could actually do your top 5 converting products in that category, or if you only have a couple and one of them always sells the most, put that one inside of your category schema to kind of boost the amount of traffic going through it. If it's a popular product and it's selling a lot, why not highlight it a little bit more on your category pages? You could drop those in there and get a benefit out of that. Otherwise, you can do some little bit of stuff in there, the web page, the abouts, the mentions and stuff to get this is what the category is about kind of thing, and skip that. There is a web page additional type called category page, and you can use that as an additional type, and it won't force that offer. I know for a fact because I've actually used it. I've used it recently. So check that out. It might be where you're going for. And essentially, it's the same thing as web page schema. It's just called category page, and then you can actually do has part. And what that looks like, I don't know. If you let me know, I'll do a whiteboard real quick. But essentially, what that is you have the category page. It says category page. Has all the stuff that a regular web page schema will have, and then it says has part, and then you can do you can put breadcrumbs in there. You can do has part. You can put article in there. Has part could be videos or whatever, right? So you can check that out. It actually works pretty good. I made some templates for a couple of rehab clients. Pages using that, especially and specifically for their blog content, and it's working great. The linking is the traffic and stuff is jumping up, and it's early days on that content too. So that should be the answer you need. Okay, no more questions. So I appreciate all of you all for coming and joining me again. If you are on the YouTubes and live, I appreciate you. Appreciate the questions. Keeps me going day in and day out. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much for downloading. Make sure you get a chance, if you could, drop a subscribe. In the new iTunes now, I think it's actually monitor or watch for like notifications kind of thing, but that's cool. If you can, leave a review or just tell your friends about me. Get some more views, more likes, subscribers and stuff. And with that, thank you very much for watching SEO This Week, episode 207. Have a great week. Stay safe. And